My name is Sarah Henson, and I serve as the minister with youth and families here at FUMC Plano. And if you haven't seen me much at all this summer, it's because youth ministry is in its very busiest form in the summer, with mission trips and activities and camps and all those things that make youth ministry what it is. But I'm so excited to be back here with you today as we celebrate the work of the young people of our church, as well as all the time and planning and energy that goes into making this summer a success. This summer, I've seen our students at work in so many ways, from choir tour, when they shared the gift of music with churches, to serving on mission trips here in Texas, as well as New Mexico, to going to summer camp at Bridgeport, and even volunteering with Vacation Bible Camp right here within our church walls. And as I've watched our students serve here in our church, in our community, and with other churches, both in our Methodist conference and beyond, I've reflected with just so much pride on the ways that both our students and our adult volunteers have served and worshiped and played and grown together. And in my post-summer reflection, I think of the ways that our students have connected both with each other and with these adults and the mission organizations that we partnered with. And I see the culmination of how our youth ministry has lived out one of the core parts of being United Methodist. One thing that I love about being United Methodist which is our connectionalism. And connectionalism is a big church word, but it's more than just a big church word. Connectionalism means we are living into this common vision that we all are loving God and loving neighbors and making disciples both within our church and churches across United Methodist conferences in Texas and beyond. And when we work together as a youth group or as a congregation and as a conference, we live out this idea of connectionalism in big and in small ways. It's this idea that we are stronger when we work together in groups than we are alone, and that we're part of something that's bigger than just this congregation right here. We're connected, each of you are connected to other United Methodists across DFW, across Texas, across our country, and even the world. And the thing that I really love about connectionalism is that when we work together and when we lean into it, we are doing more work and greater work for God's kingdom. So I want to spend some time this morning sharing with you what it's looked like this summer in practice in the youth ministry. And you'll get the chance to hear directly from a couple of our students and one of our adult volunteers of their stories of transformation. And I might be biased, but I think that our youth ministry does a pretty great job at connecting. And as we celebrate that, we as adults and other youth can learn how we can lean into being more connectional as well. So we started our summer back in the beginning of June with choir tour, and on choir tour we travel to other Methodist churches and we sing for their congregations. And the point of choir tour is for the students to bring the gifts of music that they've shared with our congregation outside these walls. And the funny thing about choir tours, we end up making connections with these churches that we serve in, that we have some sort of shared history. Sometimes it's a pastor who served at Plano once, or maybe it was someone who was once a part of our congregation, who has moved out of the DFW and now goes to another Methodist church. But we have these things that connect us to these other people across different congregations. Then our next trip was our middle school mission trip, and we went with Army to San Marcos. And Army is a program that brings youth and adults from across Texas to serve together. And we did some of the typical work that you probably think of when you go on a mission trip. We painted homes, we built wheelchair ramps, we cleaned yards. And in doing this, our students didn't just serve the strangers that soon became friends. They built friendships with people from other churches who'd come back year after year. One thing that I've noticed is that once a student goes to Bridgeport once or they go to Army once, that they keep coming back. And so students from other churches and other adults, we would meet them again, and we'd spent the last 11 months coming back and being at our own church, but we would pick these relationships right off where we left them. And I noticed that when this service is done in relationship with people, that these relationships lead to transformation, both within ourselves and the places that we go and we serve in. Then, after mission trip, we sent our students to Bridgeport camp, and at Bridgeport, I have the joy of serving on the director team. So myself and 4 other directors, we oversaw a week with over 240 youth and adults, some from our church and some from all around the Metroplex. And what I love about being in this role of director is I get to watch as adults, both from our church and from all over the conference, who love and care for students that they didn't know before going into the week. And the reason for that is they all have this idea, this vision that their church encourages, just like our church, that says that any young person is worth investing in, and that going to spend a week at camp is worth your time. And that is truly the idea of connectionalism, that when people outside your church pour into the students like they're their own. And then finally, just a couple weeks ago, we spent our high school mission trip with McCurdy Ministries in Espanola, New Mexico. And McCurdy Ministries is a United Methodist nonprofit, and McCurdy is doing transformative work in a community that has a lot of needs. So FUMC Plano actually has partnered with McCurdy before, many years ago. McCurdy used to be a charter school. And now, over time, over the last few decades, this school has kind of evolved to meet the needs of the community, and it's now it's a community center, and it has transformed over time to meet the needs of this community, and our students got to live out some of these things that were in need of the community. They got to read with the students, they got to read with children, they sorted donations, they did landscaping, and they got to prep the spaces for these ongoing ministries that McCurdy has going. And what I noticed about our students and about our group is that they didn't show up with this idea of what their agenda was. They didn't show up on mission trip and say, I need to get X amount of work done, this amount of things done to feel like I made a difference. But instead, I watched every day as our students showed up, and they listened to the directors at McCurdy as they shared the needs and the gaps and the hurts that McCurdy was experiencing, and our students partnered alongside them. And so the first night when we arrived at McCurdy, we stayed in a dorm building, and so this dorm building had been all clean from the last group, and everything was reset and ready for our group to come in and bring all of our stuff in and explode with all of our things. And I noticed the only thing that hadn't been picked up in the dorm building was they had a game room in the common area, and in the game room there was a coffee table that had a puzzle on it. And I figured that the last group had probably just not had time to finish it, and so they left it behind in hopes that someone else would come behind and finish it for them. So then later in the week, I was talking to the director of McCurdy, and I mentioned something about how I noticed that when we got to McCurdy, I noticed that there was a puzzle out, that was the only thing that hadn't been cleaned up. And she said, that was the group before you, they had started it and they didn't have time to finish it. And so I asked her what group it was, and she told me, well, it's actually a church from Texas too. And so when I asked her what church, she said it was New World United Methodist Church in Arlington. And coincidentally, New World United Methodist Church is actually the church that I served at as a youth minister before coming and serving here at FUMC Plano. And it really struck me that 5 years ago, when I worked at a completely different church, different youth group, that they had sent adults to McCurdy, and it was a ministry that I had heard of, that I knew that our church, in a different corner of the church that they were serving at, that this church had come the week before us, and they had come in with their specific times and gifts and resources, and they worked on projects that were meaningful. And then our group got to come in and also work on these projects. And one thing I noticed is that, and if you've ever gone on a mission trip, or even if you've done mission work here in Plano, that the work is never done. So when we were on mission trip, there were some things we got to see finished. Sometimes you get to finish someone's yard, or you get to build a wheelchair ramp. But most of the time you learn that when it comes to nonprofits like McCurdy, that the work is truly never done. And you can see that in the work that we do here in Plano. If you look at the missions that we partner with, that the work is never done. You can spend an entire week pulling weeds, moving hundreds of cribs, reading to children, and you know that there's always more to do. But connectionalism reminds us that we are just a part of this ongoing work that's happening. Different people, different churches, one picture of what is happening, just like the puzzle that was started before us and left behind so that we could add some pieces to it. We don't always get to see the full image of what God is doing. Sometimes we do. Sometimes we get glimpses of it. But when we each show up and we place our piece of the puzzle, we add whatever love and labor and presence that we are able to give. Over time, God uses these pieces to form something greater than we could have done by ourselves, as an individual, as a youth group, or even as a congregation. Paul puts it this way in 1 Corinthians 12. For just as the body is one and has many parts, and all parts of the body, though many, are one body, so also is Christ. For we are all baptized by one Spirit into one body. Whether Jews or Greeks, slaves or free, we are all given one Spirit to drink. Indeed, the body is not one part, but many. That's the beauty of connectionalism and being a part of a church like this that we get to live out. That there are many parts in one body, many churches, but one mission, and many people, but one Spirit working in us. And something that we have to remember is that connectionalism, by its nature, can't be done alone. The ways that our students, I watched them live this out this summer, would not have been possible without the ways that this congregation has supported us. When you give to the youth ministry, when you come to our audition for our missions, when you stop by a bake sale or our car wash, you gave money that scholarshiped kids and sent them to camp for this transformation. When you donated snacks and paper products, when you pray for our trips, when you champion summer camps and organizations like McCurdy, you are living out this connectionalism, and you are placing your piece of the puzzle. This summer reminded me once again that the church is bigger than our building, and that connectionalism doesn't just happen at camp or on mission trips. It starts when each of us, each of you say, I'm part of something bigger and I'm going to show up for it. So I want to challenge you today, to the students, to parents, to congregants who've been long time coming or new members, how will you live into your connection this year? Where will you show up? Where will you pray wider or give more intentionally? Where will you say yes to something that's outside of your comfort zone? Where will you serve in mission that connects you to your community? I promise that our church has many ways for you to connect that make sense for each of your gifts and your abilities. Because connectionalism, again, is not just a big church word, it's a calling on each of us. When our students sing in another church, or they build a ramp for a stranger, or they worship beside campers from across Texas, they're not just making memories, they're living into this calling. And then when they come home and they tell their stories to us, like right here on Youth Sunday, that's how the connection grows stronger, because it's about our shared testimony. It's how one student or one youth group's story becomes encouragement for you in the congregation, that you can be assured of the work that you've invested in them so far and be encouraged to continue to do that good work. So today on Youth Sunday, we thank you. We invite you to continue building that picture with us, a picture of what the church can be when we are united in purpose and rooted in love and connected in Christ. So now I'm going to invite Aurora Ralston. She's going to share about her experience on middle school mission trip.
This was my second year to do mission trip with Army. When I got there and we were getting put in our groups, I was expecting to be put with at least one person from my group, and I was. Most of the kids there I didn't know, but they were friends waiting to be made. When we all met for the first time, we were hesitant to talk to each other, but our head adult, Christy, was there encouraging us to talk to each other. I had already met Christy at Bridgeport, but I don't think she remembered me. Turns out she did remember me. As the days went by, we grew closer and closer together. Then, in the middle of the week, Courtney White came and made the rest of the trip a blast for us. She made the trips around San Marcos much more fun with her jokes and some inside jokes she shared with us from her trip to Europe. Our days are filled with painting accessibility ramps, helping at a community center, and moving furniture for families in need. The trips to our sites were filled with fun and blasting music and singing to it. The trips to the showers were funnier, though, because we had to turn around so many times. 3 turnarounds and 1 phone call later, we found the entrance to the showers. If I learned something from this trip, it is that I saw God through the friendships that I made and the people that I helped. The laughs were okay, too. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kylie Grant, and I've been regularly attending this church for the past year, my senior year. And the other seniors in this congregation can attest to how stressful senior year can be, with the stress of picking a college, sports, and mainly starting a new chapter in life, which is something I am still struggling with today. But something that helped my insanity was the reassurance of church every Sunday. This church became my sanctuary and brought a new light into my life. It made me feel like I was a part of something bigger. It gave me a new community to be a part of. After a bad softball game, a bad test, I could rely that I had church on Sunday. This reassurance brought me at peace. However, I started to question my peace when I looked around and I saw so much hate. Every time I looked at the news or read an article, I felt like it was all bad news, and I feel like everyone here can relate to that. When you pay attention, the world isn't what it seems like when you're a kid. The peace that I'd given myself felt like something I did not deserve. Recently, I attended this year's mission trip to Espanola, New Mexico, a city where the poverty rate is above the national average, the literacy rate is very low, and the homeless rate is severe. We stayed at McCurdy Family Resource Center. We picked weeds, moved over 300 cribs, and did other various tasks from the facility. And during this trip, our devotional topic of the week was all about peace. At first, I thought it was going to help with the questions that I had, but instead, it only raised more. As we prayed every morning for the people around me, I realized how much I have in comparison to some of these people. My life is perfect. Why should I pray about my peace and not theirs? I have a loving family, a roof over my head, and food on my plate. I felt ashamed that I had this much while they had so little. I felt guilty to pray for myself. So I confided in a friend, and she said something that really stuck out to me. You have to fill your bucket in order to fill others. I have to find peace for myself in order to give my best. I remember seeing the executive of McCurdy and thinking, how does she find so much peace among so many tribulations? So I asked her. Talking with her, I understood that my mentality was wrong. Even though the people had little, their hearts were so full. Now I know that peace is not what you have, it's about the love you receive and the love you give. It's the love that Jesus has for everybody. As I go off to college, I have to leave my peace. I'm leaving my family, I'm leaving my friends, and most of all, my comfort zone. But I have to remember, I will always have love around me. I'm going to remember that love is peace. A quote that I live by is, "To love another person is to see the face of God," by Victor Hugo. I hope everyone here can find something that gives them sanctuary like the church does to me. Just remembering, a little goes a long way. Whether they be kind words or acts of service, give the love that Jesus gives to you, because that truly is peace.
Hi, my name is Jacob Favre. I want to take a few minutes to talk about youth mission trips from the perspective of someone who's gone along as an adult more than once. So now when people hear you're taking a week off of work to go sleep on the floor of an old church building, eat peanut butter sandwiches with a bunch of teenagers, they usually ask 2 things. Number 1, are you crazy? And number 2, why would you use vacation days for that? And I get it, on paper, it doesn't sound like rest and relaxation, but what I've come to realize is that what you get out of these trips for the kids and as an adult is hard to put into words. It's not necessarily about the work we do or the places we go or about serving others, really. It's about watching kids become different people over the course of 1 week. I've seen students arrive on day 1 barely talking, unsure, nervous, some of them sitting in the back of the van with headphones in, probably asking and thinking to themselves, like, I have no idea why I'm here. And then somewhere along the way, they start laughing more, they share jokes, pitching in on whatever needs to be done, leading an activity or devotion. They come out of their shell, they start to feel connected, they become part of something bigger. By the end of the week, they're hugging people they barely spoke to on day 1, staying up late talking about life, and already planning what group they want to be in next year. You can almost see the shift happen in real time. It's like something clicks. They feel seen. They feel like they belong. And that does something to a young person. Belonging is very important. So as a parent, I get how hard it is to send your kid on a trip like this. It feels unknown, inconvenient, or maybe you're just not sure that they'll enjoy it. Honestly, the reason why I went on my first trip was due to some of these very same feelings. But I can tell you, this is where they grow. This is where they learn to trust others, try new things, and figure out who they are in a setting that's safe, supportive, and far enough from home, they begin to find themselves. I've seen it in my kids and a lot of other kids as well. And for all you adults out there thinking, I don't know if I'm cut out to help with these youth trips, trust me, you are. You don't have to be the cool adult, which of course I am. Just don't ask my kids that question. You don't need to speak fluent Gen Z, you just need to be present. And yes, willing to survive a few hours in a hot van with loud kids and snacks flying everywhere, that's just part of the deal. So I'm telling you, what you get back is incredible. You get to watch young people open up, laugh, grow, build friendships they might not have made otherwise. You start the week supervising kids you don't really know. You've maybe seen them at service or in some other church events, and then you end it with a week of memories of playing games, working hard, nightly worship time, seeing small, impactful changes in kids, and helping others. These trips aren't just a week away from home, they're a week of transformation, and not just for the kids, but for the adults as well. So thank you, Sarah. Thank you, the church, for letting me be a big part of this. And I thank you all for continuing to support something that helps our youth become more confident, more connected, and more themselves. Thank you.